Hello, hello. I am back again with another powerful speaker. I am so excited that the summit is going really well, and I just want to keep the momentum going. So, I want to introduce you to our next speaker. Her name is Parker Gilkesson. She is an expert social policy consult. She works with low income and work support programs with a focus on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, better known as SNAP. Parker is a subject matter expert in social policy, benefit eligibility, human services delivery, racial equality, and state and local policy regarding SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid. Parker holds a Master of Public Policy with a concentration in public administration from Liberty University and a bachelor's in health education, maternal and child health from Howard University. Parker believes in the importance of bridging the gap between policy analysis and policy effectiveness. She is very passionate about social change taking place within our communities. Therefore, Parker aspires to be a part of the equation to solve poverty and inequities in health and social welfare among citizens of the United States. And so we are so excited to have her on the Rehab Your Life Virtual Summit. And so, without any further ado, I am bringing to the virtual stage Miss Parker Gilkesson. How are you?
Hello, I am doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for making yourself available to participate in the summit. I know we just had you on the Rehab Your Life podcast, and so I'm just so excited to continue to connect with you in this way. And so, your title is ticking across the bottom. It is talk to your doctor. It's a matter of life and death. And so I know you have some powerful things that you're going to share with us. And so I will go ahead and let you have the floor.
All righty then. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Parker Gilkesson, and I am super excited to be here. So I just first wanted to really tell you guys about my story and why it's so important to advocate for yourself in the healthcare system, and really why talking to your doctor is so important. So about 6 years ago, almost, well, and yes, 6 years ago, this coming up week, actually, so it was July 22nd, I'll never forget it. I was in college at Howard University, and I was moving into my first apartment. So I was out all day shopping for furniture, trying to do my adulting things, if that makes sense. And I remember spraying some perfume as I was entering back into where I was living at the time, and I just felt a sharp pain hit my chest. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is happening? I'm starting to feel a rush of anxiety. And I'm like, okay, I'm obviously going crazy. I don't know what's happening. Let me just go take a nap, right? Wrong thing. I don't know why the first thing I thought was to go take a nap. But as I was laying down, I just felt something in my spirit telling me, go to the hospital, go to the hospital. So I ended up going to a friend of mine's room, and she was telling me, like, you really probably should go to the hospital. I'm going to call our friend who has a car, and I'm going to have her take you to the hospital. And so she gave me a breathing treatment because I felt like I couldn't breathe. So she allowed me to get a pump of her asthma pump, and it burned really bad. So I'm like, oh my goodness, what is happening to me? I can't breathe. My chest is hurting. My upper back is hurting. It's like a persistent pain. I just really did not know what was happening. And at the time I was very young, hadn't experienced any health problems ever. So then we ended up getting to the hospital. And by that time, I felt like I was having a heart attack. And I was telling my parents my symptoms. My friends were there with me at the hospital. My father ended up calling my aunt to come and advocate for me there because I was about 20 or 21. So just to make sure that there is someone there to take me seriously. And as I'm telling the front desk that I'm having chest pains as if I'm having a heart attack, they're telling me, oh, you're probably just high. You're young. You probably did a drug and you're on a bad trip. Sit down, we'll get to you when we get to you. And I'm telling them, like, no, I don't do drugs. I'm not on a bad trip. I am in excruciating pain and I need help now. And it wasn't until I actually put my father on speaker and he's yelling at them, telling them that I am having a heart attack. He's had one before. He knows the symptoms and that someone needs to see me immediately or else. So they eventually took me back, and they did blood tests. So they came and got me and they told me that I had a high D dimer, which means that there's some type of clotting going on. So they ended up giving me a CAT scan. After they did the CAT scan, they saw that I had huge blood clots in both sides of my lungs. So much so that they couldn't believe that I wasn't in distress and they couldn't believe that I could actually breathe. So they admitted me immediately and I had to receive blood thinners and I was in the hospital for about a week and it was a very scary situation. The first night I spent the night there, I didn't have a hospital room for about 2 or 3 days. So I was sleeping on the side of the emergency room. And then on top of that, they didn't want to allow my friend to spend the night with me, which was extremely scary because it's my first time being in the hospital, right? I thought I could possibly die at that point. I wasn't sure if I would make it and if the blood clots would pass. So I share my story to say that there were a lot of points in that story that I'm going to come back to help you understand how to advocate for yourself when you're with a doctor, whether you're just going to a doctor's appointment or if you are actually in a health crisis. So, my father and my mother both have had some health issues. So, as I was growing along through childhood, they taught me a lot of different things about making sure that you advocate for yourself and that doctors aren't all knowing, right? And that we have to know our own bodies to advocate for ourselves, particularly as Black people, right? When we're not truly listened to by healthcare practitioners. So the first point that I'm going to make is that have an advocate who you can call and ask questions, right? I have multiple. I have an aunt who is a nurse. I have a really good friend who is a nurse who is so funny. She was in her nursing program then, and we have a picture of her with her stethoscope coming in to check all my vitals. I also have my parents who my father has had a heart attack before in the past. So a lot of the symptoms and things of that he knows, and that helped to save my life. Um, so someone that you can call, ask questions, someone that can hold you accountable. And didn't you say you were feeling this way? Or didn't you say, well, did you make sure you asked the doctor this and all of those things? And if that person is available, my second point is make sure that you can take them with you, right? Whenever I go to a major doctor's appointment, and especially anytime I'm going to the emergency room, I always take someone with me. You want someone there to be able to advocate for you. If something happens and you drop, you want to make sure that someone is there to advocate for you that knows about your health and can give answers to the doctor if that's what's necessary, right? And my third point that I would say is don't be afraid to ask questions. I know oftentimes we're brought up that the doctors are all knowing, they know everything, and they'll be able to figure it out. But the reality is that medicine within itself is a process that has been figured out through research over the years. And as humans, oftentimes we can be anomalies, right? So really asking questions and making sure that you're getting to the bottom of your own healthcare plan. And it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to challenge why a doctor wants to do something and what they're actually doing. You should be able to have full knowledge of everything that is taking place in your healthcare plan. If someone was to ask you, you should be able to drop it off and let them know exactly what's happening and why the doctor is recommending that. If you're going through a process and you don't completely understand, you should consistently ask questions, right? You should be comfortable with what is taking place. And if you're not, it is okay to get my next point, a second opinion, right? If you feel like a doctor is not giving you the best information, if you feel like the testing may have been wrong or their integrity seems to be off, go and get a second opinion. Absolutely. Do not feel any kind of way about that. That's why we have insurance, and hopefully one day we'll be able to get universal insurance, hopefully universal medical care. However, making sure that you get a second opinion, because that could really save your life, right? The doctor is telling you that it's one thing, but you really, really feel like it's another. It's important to get as many opinions as you possibly can. My next point is getting to know your body. So when I was experiencing the pain, it was easy to mistake that pain. And I think a lot of people think that if you're having blood clots or having a heart attack or having another major issue, that you'll just automatically know because the pain will be so overwhelming. But honestly, I can see why they called blood clots a deadly killer, because like I told y'all, I was gonna go to sleep. I just felt like I was having an anxiety attack. I got overwhelmed. Maybe the perfume was too strong. I just need to lay down. The symptoms were very easy to mistake for something else. But one thing that I was taught at an early age is to become comfortable with my body and become comfortable with normal symptoms. And I knew immediately this was not a normal symptom for me. Normally, when I spray perfume, I have no problem. At that point, I have been very active. It was probably at one of my smallest weights. So I was working out. I didn't get winded easily. So the fact that it was feeling hard to breathe and I hadn't done any physical activity, I knew that that was a major indicator that something was going on. The fact that there was pain in my chest and in my upper back, I knew that was something. And then the final thing where I knew something was really wrong is when I took a puff of the inhaler and my chest started to burn. That's when I knew, okay, these are not normal symptoms and it's time for me to get to the hospital. So making sure that you get comfortable with your body, you understand what are normal symptoms, because what may be a normal symptom for someone else may not be a normal symptom for you whatsoever. So making sure that you understand your body, you pay attention to your symptoms, and almost similar to if you're a woman and you go to the OBGYN and they tell you about checking your breast, oftentimes women, our breasts are already lumpy, but they're checking for not just lumps that are already there, but they're checking for changes. The only way that you can know if there's been a change is if you constantly monitor them to know what lumps are normal and what lumps are not. So I think it's really important for us to normalize being comfortable in our bodies, but also getting to know our bodies and understanding what's a normal symptom and what's not a normal symptom. And so, my last and final point would be if your doctor is not listening to you and isn't respectful of your wishes, find another one. Okay, let me repeat that. If your doctor is not listening to you and is not respecting your wishes, find another one. That is perfectly fine. I know there are some people who have had doctors. Well, I've had the same doctor for 20 years. I know that's my grandmother. She's been going to the same doctor for 20 years. And at the end of the day, if it gets to a point where you're 19, they get to acting crazy and possibly, not listening to you, it is okay to change doctors. And it is okay to, I like to call it, date doctors to see which one you like, right? There are multiple doctors that could be in your network with your insurance. And go to one and see if you like them. Try another one. I've done that multiple times as I'm trying to find my group of doctors, like I like to say. And shout out to my doctors. They all are Black women. And I'm so proud of that. So my OBGYN, my primary care physician, my dentist, all are Black women. And I'm currently looking for a hematologist. It's about time for me to check on my blood work again. So, yes. And if the doctor, like I said, isn't listening to you and isn't respectful of your wishes, find another one, because that is the difference in life and death. If someone is not listening to you and taking you seriously and not taking an extra test that you really, really want because you think that something is wrong, and you know what's wrong with you, right? You know that there is something wrong if there's something off or something of that nature, and you want to get to the bottom of whatever that is. And if that doctor is trying to tell you you don't know what you're talking about or trying to tell you that it's not that big of a deal, that's a red flag, right? And I think oftentimes we have normalized that, particularly as Black people, because oftentimes we're not listened to. Oftentimes we're told that we're being dramatic. Many times we're being told that we're over exaggerating. I was just watching a video the other day that a friend of mine posted about a woman in labor, a Black woman in labor, and the nurse was telling her that she's being dramatic and that the pain isn't that bad. And I haven't had a child yet, but I know that childbirth is extremely excruciating, right? So for the nurse to tell her that it's not that bad, that right there is one of the main reasons why our infant mortality rates and our maternal mortality rates are significantly higher than for white people, right? Because white people are more trusted when they go to the doctors than we are. They are more listened to and they are heard more. So if you are going somewhere where the doctor is not hearing you, let me tell you, that is a serious red flag because you not being heard is the difference between life and death. If my father had not got on speakerphone and yelled at those people and told them that they better see me immediately, I probably wouldn't be before you all today, right? So I had the advocate, right? I had someone coming with me. I had my friends with me, and then my father and my mother, they also sent an aunt, right? I was asking plenty of questions while I was there, asking them what medication I would be on, how long I had to be on the medication, because the medication they gave me was no joke. It was a blood thinner called warfarin. So it could make my blood viscosity super, super light or super thick. It all depended on what my dosage was. So I had to go to the back to the doctor every week to make sure that my blood levels tested properly. So that's a big deal. I need to know everything that I needed to know, right? Don't be afraid to get a second opinion. Thankfully, the doctors that I was seeing were really, really good. However, I did have a great one of my uncles, his mother had a doctor come in and see me and make sure that everything that the doctors were doing were right. I forgot that part of the story. So yes, she came in to see me to make sure that I was fine, that everything was good, and that they were treating me well. So that's another thing. That was my second opinion because she checked over my medication, everything, and she made sure that it was good. Get to know your body. Again, I know my body, and that's why I was able to get those symptoms really quickly and register that, okay, something is really wrong. Then also, if your doctor is not listening and isn't respectful of your wishes, find another one. I definitely have had to do that before, and I don't regret it because my health is serious, and I absolutely want to make sure that I have the best group of doctors to make sure that I can live the best life that I can. So thank you so much, you all. Those are my top points for making sure that you advocate for yourself because it really is a matter of life and death.
Thank you so, so much. And it is so funny to me. I always like to take notes whenever the speakers are talking. And one of the notes that I wrote down was date your doctor. And you literally said that because, going through cancer treatment, I definitely had to make sure I picked the right person. And, I wrote down a couple of things, and I'm not sure if you've done this. I looked my doctor up on social media. I wanted to see if they were on social media, for one, because sometimes doctors are not, or they limit their exposure on social media. But I got a chance to see that he was a married man, that he had small children, and that he cared for his family. You can see that coming across in the photos. Then a lot of times the doctors are on these websites to be able to tell about their credentials and about the different papers they may have written or different projects that they have been a part of. And I, wanted to see, is my doctor being progressive? Because some doctors, they start treating people and they no longer do research, or they're not up on the latest things. And so when you go in there telling them about a new medication, they, oh no, I'm used to doing X, Y, and Z. And so once again, not listening. And then the other thing is I watched a TED Talk not too long ago where they were talking about you really do need to understand your doctor's values and beliefs and their cultural beliefs. And I felt like that was key because a lot of times a doctor prescribes a certain way based on their values. You're coming in with a totally different set of cultural norms. And, we as Black people, we don't go to the doctor for medication a lot of times, but then we definitely don't go for mental health issues. And so if that doctor believes in medication, and I don't believe in medication, right there, we're not on the same page.
Right, right.
And so, yeah, a lot of the points that you made, definitely, I want for everyone to kind of soak those up, but also making sure that they look up their doctor and that they date their doctor, get to know this person because they become a very integral part of your care in your life.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for your sharing your story and just your expertise as a policy analyst. I know that you're going to go on and do great things, but I thank you that you participated in the summit.
Thank you. I appreciate you for inviting me, and I'm super excited to see everything else that happens during the summit. I'm excited, and all this is wonderful information being shared.
Thank you. So, tell me how my audience can get connected with you. I know I don't want to leave off that you have a podcast.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So I have a podcast along with my best friend that I met at Howard University while we were there. So it's the Bugetto podcast. So we are on Instagram, and you also can find our podcast on Apple. We're on Google Play. We're on SoundCloud. So it's at the Bugetto, Boujetto podcast. And we talk about a plethora of topics. And we just released our most recent episode this past Monday. So we have a
Oh,
really juicy topic this time around. So make sure you tune in.
awesome. Thank you so much, Parker. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too.